How's it going, everybody? So the last Warrior stand Stefan was on, he was talking about how one of the things they're working on is to make feints more believable. We've seen this discussion multiple times within the community, and the general consensus is to just make the feint happen later. But if they did just that, then they're running into some major issues along the lines, and those are exactly what I want to talk about today, and why it might take them longer to do this than we would want it to take. To make it a little more clear, I made this pretty little thing here with my very limited skills. So, this is a normal 1000 millisecond heavy attack. Every single feintable attack in the game works exactly like that. Well, with one exception, Nobushi's lights feinted with hidden stance. But for the sake of my argument, let's say they're all equal. The parry window starts 300 milliseconds before impact and lasts 200. And the feint timing is always 400 milliseconds before impact. Most of you should have been familiar with these two facts already. The feint timing is not a static value though. We know that delaying feints is possible. With a good connection, this allows a player to make the feint happen as much as 100 milliseconds later than normal. I've gone over this in detail in 2 videos, the most recent will be linked in the top right now. So if you're unfamiliar with what I'm saying, check it out please. But let's just do what the community has always suggested. We're shifting the feint window by 100 milliseconds. As of now, we're still operating with 100 millisecond increments. Should that change, the scenario might be slightly different, but not by much. With that, we're not only shifting the normal feint time, but obviously also the delayed feint timing, which now sits comfortably right in the middle of the parry window. What we also know is that on a bad connection we can already flicker the parry indicator on delayed feint. Now imagine how easy it would be with an extra 100 milliseconds to work with. And exactly this creates the first big issue that will happen: phantom parries. Your character will perform a parry, but there's no attack to be parried. We tried recreating this with the current version of the game. Requirements for this were a somewhat bad connection, we're doing EU to NA here, the opponent delaying his feints to flicker an indicator, and me parrying frame perfect to that flicker. So what we got wasn't exactly what I had hoped for, but as you can see, my character starts a parry and then flows into the heavy attack. This was also limited to only my screen. My opponent didn't see this happening. What I had hoped for that I could show you is this. It's really old footage of pre-rework Berserker. You can see me feinting a light attack with a dodge, and the Highlander performs a full parry animation, which he is locked into with no way to stop it. That was also one of the reasons this feint option was removed with the rework. It consistently triggered this phantom parry, same as Conqueror's lights feinted with full block. You might have already seen this happen in your own games as well. It also happens when attacks bounce off walls. The obvious thing to do to fix this issue would be to mess with the parry window. Moving the parry window later into the attack. That change would make parrying attacks easier than blocking them because of the 100 millisecond guard delay. So that's not really an option at all. The other would be to shrink the parry window down. Right now they'd have to do it with 100 millisecond increments, but should we ever get smaller ones, this option might actually be worth a closer look. But as it is right now, making parrying riskier would be a step backwards and make the game even more defensive again. Opinions might differ greatly here, so feel free to make an argument for or against it. But parrying is not the only issue. The other major change that would happen is to the hitbox and animation of attacks. You can go and check this for yourself. Go into training mode and feint some attacks, and take a close look at the animation. Feint timing and animation are linked together. The moment an attack's wind-up stops and moves towards the opponent, this is the feint timing. You will not have attacks that stop mid-forward swing. Realism might not be the main reason for this, but it would probably look weird to us if it was any different. We also have gameplay related connections here. The hitbox of an attack can only start after its feint timing. If that wasn't the case, then you could hit people around you and still feint the attack afterwards. Big wide sweeping heavies would have tiny ass hitboxes because of this. You can test this by checking when you bounce off walls and what attacks are more prone to it. On top of that, it would also require animations to be adapted. The wind up would have to be longer and the actual forward movement of the attack has to be sped up. And as we know with Jung Jun, trying to change this might result in horrible misaligned animations. Yubi stated that this is very work intensive and requires many man hours to get right. Now imagine having to do this for every single feintable attack in the game. I guess we can discuss whether this change to feints will have as big of an impact as they're hoping, or if it's just a massive waste of manpower that could be spent somewhere else. Just as an example, feintable bashes do not abide by the rules I previously laid out. Both Tiandi's kick as well as Warden's fully charged shoulder bash can be feinted later. Especially in Warden's case, this makes reacting absolutely impossible, and we all know it's read based if you want to both avoid and punish it. So we know that it is an effective method when trying to make offense more viable. But is it worth the huge investment it takes to overcome the obstacles I've shown you in the video? Feel free to let me know what you think or if I've overlooked something. I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.